When Love Becomes a Lie. Laura's devastating discovery that Kevin is seen in General Hospital. In one of the most shocking twists to hit Port Charles in recent memory, Laura Collins faces the unimaginable moment when she discovers the horrifying truth about the mysterious figure known as C. The shadowy mastermind orchestrating chaos throughout the city. What makes this revelation absolutely devastating is not just the identity of this villain, but the fact that he is none other than Dr. Kevin Collins, her own beloved husband. This earth-shattering revelation tears through everything Laura has built and forces her to confront a brutal reality. The man she trusted with her life and heart has been living a double existence, potentially harboring the darkness of some of Port Charles's most dangerous criminals. For weeks, the identity of Say had remained one of General Hospital's most tantalizing mysteries. Shrouded in layers of deception and carefully constructed misdirection, the mysterious figure appeared to be orchestrating a sophisticated criminal operation alongside the menacing Jen Sidwell, manipulating events from the shadows and leaving cryptic messages that haunted those caught in the web of their schemes. Laura, as the mayor of Port Charles and a woman of remarkable intelligence and composure, found herself increasingly ensnared in this dangerous game when Sidwell began blackmailing her with photographic evidence of her involvement with Dalton's dead body, which had been mysteriously placed in her car trunk. The pressure mounted with each passing day, forcing Laura into an impossible moral position where confessing to authorities would implicate her ally Sonny Corinthos and jeopardize her grandson Ace's future. The turning point came when Kevin's sudden and unexpected return to Port Charles created a pivotal moment for Laura's investigation. Having been away in Dublin for months, Kevin surprised his wife shortly after her mayoral re-election. And Laura, desperate for guidance and support, finally confessed to him about discovering Dalton's body and her entanglement with Sidwell's blackmail scheme. She revealed how Sonny had helped her dispose of the body and cover her tracks. Kevin's response seemed supportive on the surface, and he immediately positioned himself as her confidant and protector. However, as Laura began to piece together fragmented clues scattered throughout their recent interactions, a horrifying picture started to emerge. The small details that she had initially dismissed suddenly screamed truth, inflections in Kevin's voice that didn't quite match his familiar cadence. Gestures that carried an unfamiliar cruelty, and phrases spoken with a coldness that the compassionate psychiatrist she married would never employ. What particularly chilled Laura's blood were the revelations about Kevin's involvement with Faison's final project. Years earlier, when the notorious serial killer Cesar Faison died, Kevin had acquired Faison's brain to study it, keeping it preserved in a jar on his office desk as he researched the psychology of psychopaths. This obsession with the criminal mind combined with his complicated mental health history and his relationship to his own dead twin brother, Ryan Chamberlain, himself a serial killer, created fertile ground for suspicion. Fans and investigators alike began to wonder whether Kevin had not only been studying Faison's criminal patterns, but had potentially allowed Faison's legacy to infiltrate his own consciousness. Perhaps through memory mapping experiments that Port Charles had previously explored in other cases. The evidence that crystallized Laura's worst fears came from multiple sources. First, there was Kevin's notably calm reaction when she told him about Dalton's murder, a reaction far too composed for someone hearing such shocking news for the first time. Second, his repeated absences whenever Sidwell appeared at their home, always coinciding with vague urgent patient calls that seemed to conveniently time to be genuine. Third, and most disturbingly, were the mysterious messages signed with the initial C that had been sent to Britt Westman, Kevin's former stepdaughter, providing her with medication to manage her Huntington's disease in exchange for her participation in Faison's project. The connection between Kevin and this pharmaceutical coercion suggested a depth of involvement that went far beyond passive knowledge. When Laura finally confronted Kevin with her discovery, the man she had loved for years stood before her as a complete stranger. The depths of his betrayal became apparent as she realized that the blackmail campaign against her orchestrated by Sidwell may have actually been Kevin's way of controlling her, forcing her into submission and ensuring her silence by threatening to expose her connection to Dalton's death and Sonny's involvement. Kevin was essentially holding his own wife hostage, manipulating her fear and desperation to keep her compliant. The realization that the person she had confided in, the person who had offered her comfort and support, was the very architect of her torment, created a psychological break that no amount of explanation could mend. The implications of Kevin's dual identity as he extended far beyond Laura's marriage and into the very fabric of Port Charles's safety and security. As a respected psychiatrist with access to confidential patient records and the inner workings of the mental health system at General Hospital, Kevin's position made him uniquely suited to coordinate a complex criminal enterprise. He could identify vulnerable people, understand their psychological weaknesses, and exploit them for Faison's final project. His medical expertise combined with his criminal connections through Sidwell created a dangerous alliance that could affect countless innocent lives in Port Charles. For Laura, the emotional devastation was compounded by the practical implications of this discovery. She was now in possession of information that would destroy her marriage, implicate her husband in serious federal crimes, and potentially expose her own vulnerabilities to further exploitation. She faced an agonizing choice. Turn Kevin into the authorities and face the subsequent legal entanglement while protecting Port Charles from his criminal activities, or keep the secret and live with the knowledge that she was harboring a dangerous criminal within her own home. The woman who had spent decades building a reputation for integrity and moral clarity found herself in a position where every possible choice seemed morally compromised. This revelation strikes at the heart of what makes General Hospital storytelling so compelling. The exploration of how well we truly know the people closest to us. Kevin's transformation from devoted husband to criminal mastermind challenges everything Laura believed about their relationship. The memories they had built together, the trust they had nurtured, and the future they had planned suddenly become tainted with doubt and suspicion. Was every kind word of manipulation? Was their entire marriage built on a foundation of lies? These are the haunting questions that will define Laura's emotional journey as she grapples with the aftermath of discovering that C is Kevin and that the greatest betrayal of her life has come from the person she promised to spend her life with. Next, we will learn about the shocking developments surrounding Carly and the dangerous alliance she's forming with one of Port Charles' most notorious figures, Valentine Casadini. The events that unfolded this Friday have left fans absolutely stunned, and the implications for Carrie's future are nothing short of explosive. The lakeside home that Carly has cherished as her sanctuary became the epicenter of unexpected drama when Valentine Casadini appeared without warning. This picturesque property, which Carly purchased after her divorce, hoping for peace and tranquility, has now become ground zero for a conspiracy that could reshape multiple lives in Port Charles. The home invasion wasn't your typical break-in scenario. Valentine's presence there was calculated, deliberate, and most importantly connected to a much larger web of intrigue involving the WSB and those Carly holds most dear. Just moments before Valentine's unexpected arrival, Jack Brennan received what witnesses described as an absolutely heated phone call that left him visibly shaken. The color drained from Jack's face as whoever was on the other end of that line delivered news that clearly rattled him to his core. Sources close to the situation suggest that the call was a warning that Valentine had somehow managed to escape whatever containment the WSB had arranged for him. The escape itself raises numerous questions about how secure WSB operations really are and whether there might be someone on the inside helping V and Tina evade capture. The understanding between Carly and Jack has clearly been shattered into a million pieces. Whatever arrangement they had previously discussed regarding Valentine's whereabouts and activities has been completely thrown out the window. Carly now finds herself in an incredibly precarious position where she must decide between maintaining her already fractured relationship with Jack or becoming an active participant in Valentine's fugitive activities. The choice she's leaning towards seems increasingly clear, and it's not the one that keeps her on the right side of the law. The motivation driving Carly's decision is perhaps the most powerful force in her life. Her unwavering devotion to protecting her children. Jocelyn's entanglement with the WSB has become a nightmare scenario that keeps Carly up at night, pacing the floors of that very lakeside home. Every mother's worst fear is seeing their child pulled into dangerous situations beyond their control. And that's exactly what's happening here. Jack's manipulation of Jocelyn into WSB operations has crossed a line that Carly simply cannot forgive or forget. The betrayal cuts deeper than any romantic disappointment because it strikes at the very heart of what matters most to her. Becoming an accomplice to a known fugitive carries serious legal consequences that Carly is well aware of. Federal charges for aiding and abetting could result in years behind bars, the loss of her business interests, and permanent damage to her reputation in Port Charles. However, those closest to Carly aren't exactly surprised by her willingness to walk this dangerous path. Her history is filled with moments where she's thrown caution to the wind and broken the law when she believed the cause justified the means. From her involvement in various cover-ups to her protection of loved ones at any cost, Carly has demonstrated time and again that conventional rules don't apply when her family is threatened. The performance Carly is currently putting on for Jack's benefit deserves an Academy Award. She's masking her true feelings with remarkable skill, playing the role of the concerned girlfriend while secretly harboring nothing but contempt for the man who betrayed her trust in the worst possible way. Every smile she forces, every reassuring word she speaks, every touch she allows is part of an elaborate deception designed to buy her time and keep Jack from suspecting her true intentions. The psychological toll of maintaining this charade is evident in the subtle signs that Jack keeps noticing. The slight hesitations, the moments when her eyes don't quite match her words, the tension in her shoulders when he touches her. Jack's constant need for reassurance reveals his own insecurity about where things stand between them. He knows something fundamental shifted when the truth about Vaughn's WSB affiliation came to light. That revelation was the catalyst that transformed their relationship from one based on mutual attraction and respect into something hollow and performative. Jack can sense the distance growing between them. Feel the coldness creeping into their interactions, but he can't quite put his finger on what exactly has changed or how to fix it. His instincts are telling him that Carly is slipping away, but his ego won't allow him to fully acknowledge the severity of the situation. The disappearance of Bryce has added yet another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. Bryce's absence is particularly troubling because it eliminates a key connection in whatever operations Jack had planned. More importantly, his vanishing act has triggered alarm bells for Jocelyn, who is growing increasingly suspicious and frustrated with the demands being placed upon her. The young woman who once viewed WSB work with a sense of adventure and purpose is now seeing it for what it truly is. A manipulative organization that uses people as pawns without regard for their personal relationships or moral boundaries. Jocelyn's fury over Bryce's disappearance is palpable and justified. She's being asked to compartmentalize her emotions and continue with assignments that require her to deceive and potentially endanger members of her own family. The ethical dilemma is tearing her apart from the inside. How can she look her mother in the eye knowing she's keeping such massive secrets? How can she interact with her siblings and other relatives while wearing the mask of normally when nothing about her situation is normal? The weight of these secrets is becoming unbearable, and it's only a matter of time before something gives. The tasks Jack has assigned to Jocelyn represent a fundamental violation of family trust. He's essentially asking her to weaponize her relationships with innocent people who have done nothing to deserve being caught up in WSB operations. Whether it's gathering information, providing access, or simply monitoring activities, every assignment compromises the integrity of her family bonds. Jocelyn's growing discontent manifests in sleepless nights, short tempers, and an increasing sense of isolation from the people she loves most. The inevitable confrontation looming on the horizon promises to be absolutely explosive to potential scenarios are developing simultaneously, and it's unclear which will detonate first. Jocelyn could reach her breaking point and confess everything to Carly, throwing herself on her mother's mercy and hoping for understanding despite the betrayal. Alternatively, Carly could take the initiative and reveal to Jack that she's already fully aware of his manipulation of Jocelyn, confronting him with the knowledge that his deception has been discovered. Either scenario will create shock waves throughout Port Charles and permanently alter the dynamics between these characters. Valentine's involvement in helping Carly orchestrate the perfect moment for this revelation demonstrates his strategic brilliance. He understands timing, psychology, and the art of the dramatic reveal. His experience navigating complex interpersonal dynamics and power struggles makes him the ideal conspirator for Carly's purposes. Together, they're plotting not just to expose Jack's actions, but to do so in a way that maximizes impact and ensures Jocelyn's freedom from WSB control. The romantic history between Valentine and Anna Dean typically would prevent him from developing feelings for anyone else. His devotion to Anna has been one of the most consistent aspects of his character, surviving betrayals, separations, and numerous obstacles. Under normal circumstances, no woman could hope to capture Valentine's heart because it belongs so completely to Anna. However, the current situation is far from normal, and the writers have cleverly created circumstances that open the door for new romantic possibilities. Anna's prolonged absence from Port Charles has been explained away as a WSB mission in some distant location. The lack of communication, the extended timeline, and the vague details surrounding her assignment have created a vacuum in Valentine's emotional life. While he initially accepted the official explanation without question, there are hints that he's beginning to harbor doubts about what's really happening with Anna. His investigative instincts are starting to kick in, though he hasn't yet acted on his suspicions. The fact that other people who care deeply about Anna aren't expressing concern is both puzzling and telling. Mayor Laura Collins, who has known Anna for decades and considers her a dear friend, seems remarkably unconcerned about the extended absence. Acting Police Commissioner Dante Falconieri, who works in law enforcement and should be more attuned to unusual circumstances, hasn't raised any red flags. Even Anna's own granddaughter, Emma Scorpio Drake, appears to accept the situation at face value without questioning when her grandmother might return or why communication has been so limited. This collective lack of concern could indicate that Anna's mission is indeed legitimate and that those in the know have been adequately briefed on the situation. Alternatively, it might suggest something more sinister. That there's information being withheld or that Anna's actual circumstances are being deliberately obscured by powerful forces. Valentine's growing unease suggests he suspects the latter, though he hasn't yet gathered enough evidence to challenge the official narrative. With Anna effectively removed from the immediate picture, Valentine finds himself emotionally available in a way he hasn't been for quite some time. The combination of his natural attraction to strong, complicated women and Carly's fierce determination to destroy Jack Brennan creates a perfect storm for romantic development. Their shared mission to protect their children and take down a common enemy provides the foundation for a deep connection that could easily evolve into something more intimate. Carly's romantic history reveals a consistent pattern of attraction to dangerous, powerful men who exist outside conventional boundaries. Whether they wear a badge or operate outside the law seems almost irrelevant to her. What draws her in is the combination of strength, confidence, and a certain moral flexibility that allows these men to do whatever is necessary to achieve their goals. This pattern has defined her romantic relationships throughout her adult life and continues to influence her choices even now. The warnings Carly received about Jack Brennan from well-meaning friends and family members fell on deaf ears. Multiple people tried to caution her about getting involved with a man who had such a complicated and questionable history. They pointed out the obvious red flags: his prison time, his mysterious rise to power, his ruthless reputation within law enforcement circles. But these warnings only served to make Jack more intriguing to Carly rather than deterring her interest. Carrie's decision to visit Jack in prison demonstrated just how strong her attraction to him was. Most people would be put off by the reality of visiting someone behind bars, but not Carly. She saw beyond the prison walls to the man inside, a man who exuded power and confidence even in captivity. The fact that he was able to engineer his own release and secure a position of significant authority within the WASB only increased his appeal in her eyes. That level of influence and capability was exactly the kind of thing that made Carly's heart race. The power dynamic that attracted Carly to Jack is the same quality she recognizes involving Casadini. Both men draw their strength from places that exist outside traditional power structures. They're not afraid to get their hands dirty, to make difficult choices, or to operate in gray areas when necessary. This similarity between the two men makes Valentine a natural candidate to replace Jack and Carly's affections, especially now that Jack has weaponized his power against her family rather than using it to protect them. However, the current situation represents a crucial difference. Jack used his considerable power to target Carrie's daughter, crossing a line that transformed him from an attractive bad boy into an active threat. That betrayal has opened Carly's eyes to the darker side of being involved with powerful men who have questionable ethics. The pain of that realization is fresh and raw, making her simultaneously more cautious and more vengeful. She wants to hurt Jack the way he's hurt her by manipulating Jocelyn into dangerous WSB operations. The parallel between Carly and Valentine's devotion to their children cannot be overstated. Both are parents who would move heaven and earth, break any law, and sacrifice anything to protect their offspring. This shared value system creates an instant understanding between them that transcends their different backgrounds and life experiences. When Carly looks at Valentine, she sees someone who truly comprehends the depth of parental love and the lengths to which one will go to keep their children safe from harm. The alliance forming between Carly and Valentine is built on this foundation of mutual understanding and shared goals. They're not just two people plotting revenge against a common enemy. They're two parents fighting to protect their families from forces that seek to manipulate and control their children. This emotional connection has the potential to evolve into something deeper and more romantic as they spend time together plotting strategy, sharing confidences, and supporting each other through the dangerous game they're playing. The question now becomes whether this alliance will remain purely strategic or if it will blossom into full-blown romance. The ingredients are certainly all there to attractive, passionate people brought together by circumstance and united by purpose. The chemistry between them is undeniable, and the intensity of their shared mission creates the kind of emotional intimacy that often precedes physical attraction. As they conspire together in secret meetings, exchange coded messages, and coordinate their moves against Jack Brennan, the line between partnership and romance may blur significantly. What makes this potential romance particularly compelling is the timing and context. Both Carly and Valentine are at crossroads in their respective lives. Carly is emerging from the betrayal by Jack with her trust shattered, but her spirit unbroken. Valentine is dealing with Anna's prolonged absence and the growing suspicion that something isn't right with the official story. They're both vulnerable in ways they rarely allow themselves to be, and that vulnerability could create openings for genuine emotional connection. The stakes of their alliance are extraordinarily high. They're not just playing romantic games or engaging in casual flirtation. They're risking their freedom, their futures, and potentially their lives to protect their children and bring down a powerful WSB operative. That level of stakes tends to intensify every emotion and accelerate every connection. What might normally take months to develop could happen in a matter of weeks under these pressure cooker circumstances. As events continue to unfold in Port Charles, fans will be watching closely to see how this dynamic between Carly and Valentine evolves. Will they successfully navigate the dangerous waters they're swimming in? Can they protect their children while staying one step ahead of Jack Brennan? And most intriguingly, will their partnership transform into something more passionate and romantic? The answers to these questions promise to deliver the kind of drama that General Hospital fans live for.